Hey guys, back at you again. If this is not the quintessential northeastern fall scene behind me, I don't know what more you want. So here we are today. Today I am smoking my favorite pipe still. It's that Harriet Pipes Billiard. It's been maybe a week or so since I've smoked this pipe, and I've been missing it. Every time I come out here and smoke something else, I start to wonder, why am I not smoking that pipe? So today I am. It's kind of funny because this billiard shape is honestly, I don't think I'd say billiard is my favorite shape of pipe, but this thing just smokes so well. This was, I've been following Chris Harriet's channel for a little while, and before I wanted to commission a pipe through him, I just wanted to try one of his pipes, and this was one he had available on the website, so I grabbed it, and I am not disappointed at all. So I did actually submit a commission work to Chris, so I think he's going to be getting started on that pipe shortly. I think another reason I like this pipe so much is because I've dedicated this to vapors, and I'm starting to come to a conclusion. Vapor blends are my favorite at the moment. So favorite pipe, favorite type of tobacco, and today, speaking of which, I am smoking Cornell and Deal's Bayou Morning Mixture. This is probably, I don't know, 6 ounces or something like that, and I've got another 4 on the way, just so it can start aging. Clearly this is going to take me a long time to smoke through, so there we are with that. Housekeeping out of the way. As you can tell by my voice, I still have a bit of a cold. These man colds, man, they're serious. They're serious. I don't care what the ladies in your life say. Man colds are real. I normally don't get super sick from other things, but when I get a cold, this sucker's with me for a good 2 weeks, so it's just how it goes. I also don't really take it easy and rest at all either, so that probably doesn't help the situation. But nonetheless, coming at you today, it's another pipes and books. I was very caught off guard. I have a couple of authors that I really like reading, and go figure, this month there's so many, they're all putting out new books this month, and unfortunately a lot of them are follow-ups on trilogies. So my last video was on the Ink and Sigil series by Kevin Hearn. I finished that trilogy. That's a really quick, easygoing trilogy to read through. So I hammered through that pretty quickly. I've got 2 other authors I really like just put out new books yesterday. So Michael Connolly has a new book with Harry Bosch, and so at some point I have to go pick that book up. And Neil Stephenson just put out a new book. Neil Stephenson is sort of a, I'm gonna adjust this real quick, it's precariously balanced. Neil Stephenson writes a lot of science fiction and such, and he's got a new book that just came out. Luckily, that's the first book in what's going to be a series, so there's no real rush to jump into that. But I'm going to want to pick that up and read that soon. Next week, what's coming out next week? Something else is coming out next week. And that is part of a series of books as well. Book by John Gwynne. He does fiction, fantasy combo kind of deal. And it's a third book of a trilogy. So that comes out next week, which means I have to reread the first 2 books in that series. Which they're great books, so I don't have any problems with that. But it's another trilogy. And honestly, I don't think I'm going to be getting to it quite yet, because the last book that I got is also the third book in a trilogy. And it's about an author I already talked about a little bit. But I'll show you that in just a second. This is not an easy to read trilogy. It's very heavy, dense, good, but it's not just a quick read. So real quick, let me grab the first book in the series, or I guess I should start with the author. We're back to my man, Karl Ove Knausgaard. And this is a series, it's a trilogy that's... I read the first 2 books in it, and I guess I didn't fully grasp that it was part of a trilogy. Which sounds weird, but I'll explain why in just a second. But this is the first book of the series, The Morning Star. So this is the one I'm currently reading. Put my pipe down for just a second. The second book in the series is called The Wolves of Eternity. And the book that just came out, the final book of the trilogy, is The Third Realm. Oh, there we are. That sun's right behind me. What a beautiful, beautiful trilogy to look at on the shelf. But essentially the premise behind these books, I guess kind of so far the only factor that ties them together from what I can remember of the second book and what I'm rereading from this first book. It's about a giant star that's people see, and nobody really knows what it is, where it's come from, what's happening. I need a new lighter. And the book follows. It's interesting because that star is really the only unifying factor. But each chapter of this book is a character. And so far, I'm halfway through the book, and there's only been one repeat character chapter. So it's essentially a series of chapters about what's happening in different people's lives, and what's going on in their lives as they see this star. Doesn't sound interesting at all the way I just described it. So that was not a good sales pitch. But anyways, the reason I'm so fond of this, I think I talked about it in the other video when I talked about the season series that he wrote. His character work is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And it's hard to believe that you could be invested in these characters and what's going on in their lives, jumping from one chapter to the next. But there's just enough information in there that it does get you hooked. As I just showed you, I've started keeping little notes about what happens in each chapter and who some of the characters are. And there are a couple of tie-ins from one story, one character to the next. But what I really enjoy about this book so far, and I've read it before. It was a while ago. This came out maybe 3 years ago. So it's kind of like reading it again for the first time. But what's really interesting to me about this series is his character work is so good, and that there's characters that, because of their life situations, it makes them very relatable. And he really highlights sort of the dark side of people. So one of the characters, the only character so far to repeat the chapter I'm reading right now, her name is Catherine, and she's a female priest. And essentially she goes to a conference, a religious conference, and on the flight to the conference, she realizes that she's not really in love with her husband anymore. The only thing they have in common are their 2 children. And on the, it goes through her thought process on, should she get divorced? She's a priest, so that's not exactly a good thing. There's nothing against her husband. She's not interested in anyone else. There's no new relationship that she's wants to get divorced for. It's just monotonous, I guess you could say. And there's times, I think, for everyone that's married, there's times, especially when once you have kids, they become your sole focus. And it's really important. This is something I've dealt with. I've been part of, men's groups and things like that. And it's always highlighted the importance of making sure to date your wife and keep that relationship strong. But there's always times where things get busy and just doesn't want to stay lit with all the wind. And we often, fall into that slump where if you don't do something about it, you start to lose touch with each other. And obviously that's not a good thing. I believe very strongly in the importance of a strong, healthy family. And at the end of the day, you have to put in work. Just because you're married doesn't mean you're free from those obligations. It's really important to keep that relationship strong with your wife or your husband, your significant other. And so, those are things that a lot of people don't like to talk about, don't like to admit to. And that's just one of the characters. There's another one. She works as a checkout person at a grocery store, and she's sort of reflecting on she runs into one of her old high school teachers, and talks about the insecurities of being a 16-year-old, and so through flashbacks and what she would go through to try to impress other people. And how her life isn't ending up how she was hoping it would. So, insecurities of being overweight and trying to be a people pleaser and whatnot. And, there's just a lot of real life situations that that are relatable in these characters, and he just does such a great job with the character work. So if you're looking for a good, interesting read, again, the trilogy is now complete, so this is something I would certainly recommend picking up if you're looking for something like that. One of the things that character work for me is essential as far as me getting interested in a story. One of the reasons I love Stephen King so much in his writings is his character work is top notch as well. Another book review channel, Mike's Book Reviews. He's a huge Stephen King fan, and as he calls it, you know, that growing up slice of life character work that Stephen King does is just fantastic. Plots can be good, but if I don't care about the characters, I'm not gonna really be interested in the book. And although in this series so far, there's really only one character that's really piqued my interest, what's going on with him. It's the character work across the board is just so good that I just want to keep reading, going from story to story. I do have to limit myself, though. As I finish a chapter, I need to make sure I have a chance to sit down and sort of write out on one of those post-it notes, sort of a chapter summary before I jump into the next chapter. Make sure I catch all those details, because the characters do pop up again in later chapters, and just to go back for a quick refresher. I forgot if those characters pop up again in the second book, and who knows about the third book yet. I picked it up. I haven't even really looked through it yet, so that's what I'm currently reading. That Thomas Jefferson book I showed in, maybe that was the last video, actually. I'm still reading that as well. This series I'm doing mostly on audio, and so in the few rare moments of free time that I have where I can sit down and read a book, I'm reading the Thomas Jefferson book for that. So that one has not not been left behind. I also haven't really made any progress in it since the last time I recorded a video, so there's that too. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you're looking for something good to read, that one's certainly worth checking out. Hope you guys are having a good one. Hope you've enjoyed the wonderful background as the sun's starting to set freakishly early. It's dark when I leave in the mornings most of the time, and it's dark when I get home from at least my second job. Nowadays it's getting dark as I'm leaving for that second job, so it's the difficulties of the winter, but what can I say? If you guys are reading anything good right now, appreciate some suggestions in the comments. That would be great. I'm not too picky about what I read. There's something to be learned from everything for the most part. Romance definitely is not my huge cup of tea, but obviously that plays a role in just about any good story, so there's that. Thank you all again for checking this video out, and hopefully I'll see you in the comments and in future videos. Thanks.